All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. C-Smart is so excited to be hosting this Earth Day panel titled Finding Your Climate Action Intersection. If you're not sure yet what that means, we will find out really shortly. But essentially, we're finding the place where our interests, our talents, and our network overlap, and finding our most powerful climate action at that intersection. So my name is Fiona and I'm the program coordinator for C-Smart. I began working here in October and I am so excited that I get to be the one to go out to all of the schools and the summer camps and beach cleanups and share my passion for conservation, the environment, with students and members of the public. I work for C-Smart, and C-Smart is a charity here in Vancouver. It was founded in 2016 by Dr. Elaine Leung, who we'll hear from shortly. Founded out of a place of wanting to help people find tangible, meaningful things that they could do to have a positive and lasting impact on the ocean. C-Smart is located here in Vancouver, and Vancouver is on the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, including the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, Musqueam, and Stalo people. And we're really excited that we get to share this area, we get to play, work, and explore around the Salish Sea. The Salish Sea is a really awesome and important part of our ecosystem of Vancouver, and we're really glad that we have it here where we get to explore it as well. So today we're celebrating Earth Day, and Earth Day began in 1970. It began as a response to a large oil spill in California that people were really upset about. They saw the impact that it was having on the environment and they wanted to be able to do something about it. So Earth Day began. From then, it has just grown and grown. In 1990, it became an international event, and now it is the largest secular holiday that occurs on our planet. And that's awesome because all of us get to come together and work to help our planet, to reduce climate change, and to have an awesome, fantastic, positive, and lasting impact on our planet. So today we're going to hear from some really amazing speakers about what they have done in their own lives to help our planet to work towards conservation and to fight climate change. So we're going to begin today with our first speaker. This is Tom. He is from NADA and he will give himself a little bit more of an introduction. But thank you so much, Tom. Take it away.
Thanks, Fiona. Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Finkel. I'm the marketing director at NADA. Really excited to be here this evening and take part in a conversation surrounding climate change and our approach to sustainable impact. So a little bit about me. I grew up on the lands of the Mississauga First Nations before heading to the West Coast. And I'd like to start also by acknowledging the traditional unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, where I join you from today. Interesting, like Vancouver is actually part of an ancient landscape that is deeply rooted in food, an area that these nations have lived off of, fished, hunted, and gathered for millennia, with deep ties to the ocean, river, and wetland ecosystems that we're so lucky to be surrounded by. So a little bit more of a background and also my intersection with my current role at NADA. I was a part of the brand agency that was part of the name and visual approach for NADA back in 2017, formerly known as Zero Waste Market. And at this time in my career, I was seeking to work with brands that aligned with my values and could lead to bigger conversations that create community and collective action towards a common goal. And so from here, our work took form by way of developing strategies to build community around the package-free movement through pop-ups, community activations, and social media strategy. This work is, I would say today, is still deeply rooted in our customer base and something we continue to work towards. So as we move on in my career and my intersection, my interests kind of dived into digital platforms to drive meaningful engagement and conversations. So at this time, I was leading digital strategy for impact brands in Vancouver, and I got involved with a community initiative called On the Table. This was a program that focused on bringing friends, colleagues, neighbors together to talk about what mattered most to us. So it was, at this time, it was small groups. Online really wasn't that big of a thing yet, but what it did is it encouraged us all to take the time to connect and share meaningful conversations. And one common theme that became apparent during these in-person engagements was the consensus concern that global warming and climate change was happening. And after this, and after hearing this, I felt the need to package up these bigger conversations into the digital realm so that this message and thought leadership would have longevity and educate other folks that would be interested in getting involved. So fast forward to 2020 and the pandemic hit and engagement around this conversation shifted online. I was inspired further to work with brands to communicate mission-driven approaches to doing business that would be better for people and the planet. So after years of working with Nod on the agency side, I finally came full circle and I was asked to join and build an e-commerce business focused on making package-free shopping accessible to the masses. So today, I use my skills for creative development and marketing strategies to educate new and existing customers and encourage behavior change. I also admin zero waste groups across the country to encourage reuse, repair, and buy what you need tactics, and volunteer my content creation capabilities to nonprofit organizations. But now we're going to dive deeper into NADA. And I'm excited to use this opportunity to share a little bit more about our mission and the bigger conversations we hope that marketing can be a part of. And I'm just going to share a presentation to not only inspire you to shop package free, but kind of, see what we're up to. Awesome. Elaine, Fiona, can you see this slide? So if you've ever been to Nada, where you're located at the corner of Fraser and East Broadway, this is our brick and mortar store. Just kind of like a behind the scenes shot that I caught. So that's what it looks like inside. So first, we're gonna dive into like why it's so important that we shop package free, and I'm gonna kind of tie it towards like a climate change conversation as well. So we did some research, and we found that broken down by economic sectors, 21 to 37% of annual greenhouse gases can be traced back to the food system. So what this shows is that emissions are a byproduct of food production, and they occur at every stage of the supply chain. So what we need to understand is that the industry we're in is making an impact, and we have to make a difference. Also, food waste. This is a big part of what we try to do through our NADA zone, which is we take imperfect foods and turn it into goods to keep them out of the food waste cycle. But food waste is responsible for 8% of global house gas emissions. And grocery stores and supermarkets are responsible for 12% of that waste, while an additional 5% doesn't even make it to the supplier store. So this is just something that we always keep in mind when we're marketing and thinking about how we communicate with new and existing customers, is that we always need to think about our supply chain. How do we make our operations more efficient? And how do we communicate the impact of the industry we're in on the environment? So climate change is one of many reasons why we do what we do, but we want to kind of address that grocery stores are a vehicle that connect people to their food. So by playing a crucial role in transforming the food system, we have this unique opportunity to better connect people to their food and help them make more sustainable food choices. And so we do this through the suppliers we choose to work with. We try to work with suppliers that are local, located in a close vicinity to our store. And we also do a lot of work in the supply chain. So making sure that we receive products naked and no packaging when we receive them. So introducing Nada, a little bit of a story about Nada. So Elaine, you've been around since the very beginning, but Brianne Miller is our CEO, and she is a marine biologist before she started Nada. And she noticed, during her dives, she noticed plastic and food related plastic in all the dive sites she visited. And this inspired her to start Nada and begin this journey. So if you've never heard of us, we are a package-free grocery delivery service. And our mission is to connect people to just food, championing a community food system by linking buyers to suppliers and offering healthy, local, and unpackaged products and services. Our vision is it's healthy people equal healthy planet, where people link their food choices to the health of themselves and the environment. We're working hard to connect people to food in its simplest form in an attempt to spark conversations around our food system. So if you've never shopped this way, it's quite simple. So you bring containers from your home, or you can use containers that we have in store, upcycled containers or deposit jars. You simply fill your containers, you weigh the weight of your jar, and you subtract that from the weight of the product. And you can use our digital weigh systems that are located at the front of the store, or you can have our team members help you with that as well. We have a great bulk section, and we offer a lot of locally sourced goods and goodies. So yeah, we really work to make it easy to shop. Some interesting stuff in the works is we also offer carbon home neutral home delivery. So this is an effort of ours to make package-free shopping more accessible to the Lower Mainland. And so this is a really exciting initiative for us because it, makes our conversation a little bit more wide-ranging. Two really cool things I love about NADA is we are, 1% of our top line revenue each quarter gets donated to 1% for the planet. So last quarter was Protect Our Winters, and this current quarter is Oceanwise. So over our lifetime, we've donated over 36,000 to 1% for the Planet Partners. Another big initiative we went through, it was to become a certified B Corporation, and we improved our score to 109 this year. So that was a lot of work for us, and we did a lot of work to bring that number to where we're at. This is a recent campaign we released. Yeah, Elaine's laughing. I'm going to share this video in the chat, but this was a campaign where we really just wanted to make package free accessible and like friendly. And so we came up with this video that took you through the day in the life of a container. So at NADA, we have an upcycle container program, which means you can bring your containers in, we'll wash them, and we'll repurpose them for upcoming orders. So we really have worked towards closing the loop on plastic, which kind of stems back to Brianne's original mission and what she saw during those dive sites. So I'll make sure to share that link in the chat. It's a great video. We also have done a lot of work kind of understanding our impact. Like, how are we part of this climate change conversation? How are we combating food waste? Just to better understand our mission. So we pulled some numbers since 2018. And we found that we've diverted over 1.2 million containers from the landfill. And we've also recovered over 3,500 kilograms of food. So this gets us up in the morning. This gets us really excited about what we're doing. And this is some really exciting impact metrics that we have as well. And I'll make sure to share that impact report in the chat as well. So I just put some benefits and tips of low waste living so you can take something home. So some benefits of the shopping model we offer is you can buy only what you need. So if you just need a single egg, you can buy a single egg. We really don't want you to have to buy more than what you need, and which causes food waste. We also find that with less food waste, that equals a smaller carbon footprint. And it also helps to limit single-use plastic. So I love this concept of buy only what you need. And I've really learned to love it. Some other tips that we recommend is bring your own reusable bag wherever you go. I find if you can put yourself in a position to refuse certain things, but you need to kind of do the work up front to be in a position to be able to do that. So reusable bag, a mug when you go to the coffee shop, there's the simple wins you can really do to make a difference. So a lot of simple tips. I'll make sure to share more in the chat as well as we go, and you can always visit these and implement them into your daily life. And that's all for me. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening in. And thanks so much for your time. And I will make sure to share all these links. And thanks so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tom, for sharing that. We really appreciate having you here. I just wanted to let everyone know that after our speakers this evening, there will be a chance to ask questions. So if you have questions for Tom, make sure you write those down so that you don't forget. But again, thank you so much, Tom. All right, so we are going to move on to our second speaker for this evening. Putting you a little bit on the spot, Moronke Harris. We are going to ask that you share with us now your intersection between your talents, your interests, and your network.
Sure thing. I'll just get my slides ready. All right. There we go. So as you all know, I'm Moronke Harris, and over the course of this brief presentation, I'll just go over who I am, what I do, how I got where I am, and then also how I aim to inspire others. So I'm originally from Toronto, Ontario, and I studied biological science at the University of Guelph, also in Ontario, but currently I'm a graduate student in the Juniper Lab at the University of Victoria on Vancouver Island. And here at UVic, I dedicate my time to deep sea oceanography, so life in the absence of light. And my thesis is all about hydrothermal vents thousands of meters below the ocean surface. So this video is a hydrothermal vent, and life here runs on chemosynthesis. So they use the chemicals that are spewing out of those vents instead of photosynthesis, which you all know uses energy from the sun. And these vents form metal and mineral deposits on the seabed that different countries are looking at mining. So part of my thesis is about risk mitigation. The best option is obviously to not mine, but as we know, if there's money to be made, humans will access it. So my thesis is about basically, if we must mine, where are the least impactful areas to mine? There's a lot of seafloor mapping and 3D modeling involved. But on top of getting to study those extremely fascinating remote locations, I also get the opportunity to communicate my science and what I find fascinating to viewers like all of you. So you may be wondering how I got where I am as a deep sea researcher. I wasn't the type of person who always knew exactly what career I wanted to have, but luckily I had interests early in life that played into leading me to oceanography. And by listening to those interests and the things that excited me most and applying those interests strategically, I found my way to where I am now. So I knew I had an interest in science, specifically chemistry and biology, also traveling, so seeing new places, experiencing different cultures, and making new friends. Also, public speaking, trying new things, and exploration of the unknown was a big one for me. So the overarching interest that tied all of this together was an interest in the ocean. And all of these things could be found in a career in oceanography. And I discovered these interests through trying new things, watching documentaries, and following what inherently made me happy. And what made me happy wasn't always easy, but oftentimes the hard things are more satisfying than easy things could ever be once you complete them. That's also my motto for completing my PhD as I go through that. So these interests led me to my journey to deep sea research here in graduate school. After graduation, I only had a single marine science course under my belt, so I completed internships in the field to get in-field experience. So in 2018, I worked on an artificial upwelling project in Bermuda that was just running lab experiments to see if we could use pipe robots in the ocean to pump cooler water up from the deep to combat ocean warming and coral bleaching. And then I did some ocean acidification and chemical oceanography work in Florida in 2019. And after which I moved out to Vancouver because I got a job with the North Pacific Anadromous Fish Commission, or the NPFC, planning expeditions to the Gulf of Alaska. And I stayed in that job for about a year. And then I got into graduate school here at the University of Victoria in the fall of 2020. So I haven't been in it for that long. And I found all of these opportunities by just Googling internship positions because I didn't know anybody in the marine science field. So I just made my own way. And even at times applying for things that I wasn't exactly qualified for. So this is a summary of the wins, but trust me, there were a lot of failed applications as well. The lessons here are twofold. In-field experience is critical in preparing for graduate school if you're planning on going into oceanography. It'll set you apart and it'll also give you contacts. And it's also important to not give up. A lot can happen in 3 years, as you see on the screen. So tenacity is a skill that's needed for this career stream, definitely. So I advocate for the deep sea because it's the most unexplored area of the ocean. Therefore, it has the most potential for discovery. It was also long believed barren, but we now know that that's not the case. But there still is a preconceived notion that it isn't teeming with life the same way the upper ocean is. And that's incorrect. It's just teeming with different types of life. Life in the deep ocean is often smaller, like there's a lot more bacteria. And not a lot of people know about the deep sea. So usually when we think about human impacts on the ocean, we think upper level ocean, things like coral or salmon. But the ocean is about 11,000 meters deep. So there are plenty of threats that extend towards the deep sea. And the most imminent of those is deep sea mining, like I mentioned earlier in my talk, which is also the focus of my thesis. And threats like these can and will affect the upper ocean since the ocean is connected. Just to give you a few impacts on deep sea mining, mining of hydrothermal vents would obviously destroy the direct vent habitat and kill the associated organisms there before we get the chance to know all we need to know about them. Hydrothermal vents were only discovered in 1977, so we've only known them for about 45 years of their existence. So there's a lot left to discover about them. And then outside of these direct and immediate impacts on deep sea ecosystems that are actually going to be mined, there's the wider effects on the marine environment. So the plumes of sediment that'll be created through deep sea mining as that seabed is stirred up can possibly spread tens of thousands of square kilometers beyond those mining sites. And the effect that this will have on things higher in the water column, like corals and sponges, isn't great, to say the least. It'll basically smother them. And then there's also wastewater that contains sediment and mineral traces pumped back into the ocean through mining. And that would also form plumes, which could also travel hundreds of kilometers and further. And these plumes may be toxic and cause water cloudiness that will impact species that use bioluminescence to hunt or find mates. And finally, there's things like noise and light pollution that in tandem with the sediment plumes could seriously impact species like whales that use echolocation to communicate, find prey, and escape predators. So historically, environmental regulations have followed the development of new technologies instead of anticipating and guiding them. And with deep sea mining, there's a unique opportunity for us to select and optimize recognized good practices and safety and environmental management practices from other industries to implement proactive scientific, technological, and legal measures that will minimize the negative environmental impact before commercialization surges. So there's been some work on this worldwide, but there still isn't currently a cohesive strategy that protects and regulates the mining bed in international waters. So that's my science stuff, but in terms of inspiring others, I'm of the firm belief that the work that we do as scientists is much too interesting to keep to ourselves. So effective science communication can have an impact on politics, healthcare, and policy agendas that contribute to benefiting both society as a whole and the environment that surround us. So opportunities like this to speak and make connections and promote my interest in deep sea oceanography through webinars, podcasts, youth programs like the Ocean Bridge program by Ocean Wise, and even acting as a scientific consultant for deep sea video games. I can't give more detail on that. I'd love to, but they make you sign a non-disclosure agreement, so can't get into that. But these are all my main avenues for inspiring others. And additionally, science and art have been two longtime loves of mine. So if I hadn't chosen science, I would have completed post-secondary schooling in fine art. So I'm a science communicator and avid visual artist promoting the S and A in STEAM, that's science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, under the umbrella of my brand, The Imaginative Scientist. So in addition to my general science outreach work, I'm also aiming to blend science and visual artistry to create impactful, engaging pieces that make science accessible for and fascinating to all. Because oftentimes when we think about science, we think things like abstract notation or formulas that are hard to read or understand. And in comparison to art, it's often a topic that can seem pretty unrelatable to those who aren't in the field. But science can't exist without art, because artful imagination is that essence of the creative aspects that science relies on at its base. And similarly, art can't exist in the absence of science. So I really enjoy blending those two passions. I'll just leave you with some tried and trusted tips and tricks. So just some advice I have on how to best apply your talent and create a path in the climate action sector, things that have worked for me. So just think about your passion and what your goals are and what product or service you want to deliver and what your target audiences will be as a result of that passion. For example, as I began to get involved in science more professionally, I noticed I was pretty drawn to breaking science down into digestible, enthusiastic chunks suitable for general audiences. So I took that and ran with it. And then once you narrow down that passion or idea, jump into bringing your idea to life. Also, Don't underestimate yourself. Your passions are worth your effort. And also don't be afraid to ask for help or ask others who you look up to how they got where they are. Because in my experience, professionals are always happy to advise those at earlier stages. And without that support network, I wouldn't be where I am in my scientific career, and even going forward with my visual art stuff and blending that with my scientific career. So thank you for listening, and all of my interests, the science, the research, outreach, and visual art intersect on my professional website, moronkeharris.com, just my name.com. And if you have any questions about anything I've talked about today, I can answer them after we've gone through all the presentations, but there's also a lot more information available on my website about the internships I've done and my past outreach initiatives. And I'm also on most social media platforms at Imaginative Sci, the most active of which is my Instagram. So with that, I'll wrap up. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you so much, Moronke. That was fantastic. And thank you for giving those little tips at the end of what people can do. Some tangible actions are always something that's of interest to me. So I appreciate those tips at the end as well.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. So again, we'll have an opportunity for questions after our speakers. So make sure that you are remembering your questions for both Tom and Moronke. But our next speaker this evening is Dr. Elaine Leung of C-SMART, and I will let her take it away from here.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And Moronke, can I be your field assistant?
Oh, yeah, of course.
I never get to do field work anymore. So for some reason, it is not letting me do a slideshow. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on Friday night. It was a beautiful day in Vancouver. I'm Dr. Elaine Leung. I'm a marine biologist and the founder of C-SMART. So how I started on my climate action journey wasn't exactly the most intuitive. I was always one of those kids that I wanted to make the world a better place. I never really knew what I wanted to do with my life. And just kind of toddled through school and got the dream job of studying sea lions for my first job after high school. I was doing research for the University of British Columbia Marine Mammal Research Unit. Now you have to understand, it never occurred to me to be a marine biologist because I get seasick, really horribly seasick, never get over it. And I'm also a really bad swimmer. So those are two pretty big occupational hazards. But when you get to do work like this, it's pretty hard to say no. Since that first stint, when I was only 20 years old, I have since then traveled all around the world studying some of the most amazing and endangered animals in the world, usually living on tiny little islands in the middle of nowhere. Me and two people, no electricity, no running water. And when I finished my PhD, I realized that over 30 of the species that I've studied will go extinct within my lifetime. And I realized that I've dedicated over half of my life to ocean conservation, but it wasn't making a difference because governments will always choose to make money over protecting the environment. And this is incredibly frustrating because our oceans need our help right now. They are our world's life support system. Life on this planet can't exist without our oceans. Humanity, every single critter you see. So we need to do our part. You might all think whenever you turn on the news, all you hear are bad news stories about the planet. And it's so easy to feel overwhelmed and that there's nothing you can do. The world's problems are too big. But I've seen time and time again how the power of individual action can create huge waves of change, but also how together we can do so much more. It's through this belief and the realization that I'm not ready to give up. I refuse to give up because I want our kids to be able to grow up in a world where they can live with healthy oceans that are full of whales, fish, and turtles. But at the current rate that we're going at, that might be unlikely for the next generation. Kids also these days are spending the majority of their waking hours indoors behind a screen, and they're losing their connection with nature. This is a huge problem because you only protect what you love. At the same time, I really believe that kids have so much potential to be ocean superheroes. They just need someone to help spark that curiosity, love, and connection with nature. So this is the whole idea of Sea Smart. I started Sea Smart. We're a Vancouver-based charity, and our mission is to inspire and empower kids to love and protect our oceans. We do this through lots of different types of programs. The main ones are school workshops, summer camps at the beach, and online programs. And all of these are just really fun, innovative, action-oriented, and solutions-based programs that, yes, we do teach kids about these huge issues affecting our planet, like climate change, ocean acidification, overfishing, bycatch. But we also teach them about the simple actions we can all take to help. And this is really to help people feel empowered instead of overwhelmed. The impact we've had exceeds my wildest dreams. I started Sea Smart at the end of 2016, and since then we've taught over 700,000 people in over 30 countries through our free online educator resources, and over 40,000 people through in-person programs. And for us, it's all about empowering people with the knowledge and the tools to make a difference. We always tell people, by participating in Sea Smart, you have this important responsibility to share your knowledge with your friends and family in your community. So again, all of our programs are very action-oriented. And we, as an example, from one cohort of students, we taught about 1,100 students about plastic pollution. Almost 80% of them all committed to reducing their single-use plastics. And based on their different commitments, we estimated this was equivalent to over 340,000 pieces of single-use plastics per year, just from this group of students. And again, then we encourage them to share their knowledge. So over 70% of their families have all committed to reducing their single-use plastics. So when you think that the average family in Canada has about 4 people in it, you can really start seeing how this ripple effect happens. We have over 2,000 followers across our social channels, hopefully a few more after tonight. And we engage with thousands of people at events every single year pre-COVID. Tomorrow, we are running our first public outreach program. We're doing a shoreline cleanup at Kitts Beach at 10 a.m. So please come join us. It'll be our first public event since COVID. So it's very exciting times, very exciting way to celebrate Earth Day. So some of you might be thinking, we're talking about climate change. Why does she keep talking about the oceans? The oceans have everything to do with climate change. So when you look at Earth from space, it's actually more accurate to call Earth a blue planet because our oceans cover over 70% of Earth. The ocean absorbs heat from the sun, and the ocean currents actually carry this warm water all around the planet. So oceans are important for moderating the temperature as well as weather for our planet. A lot of people always think about rainforests, tropical rainforests, especially when they think about combating climate change. But marine ecosystems actually sequester and store more carbon per unit area than any land forest. And in fact, there's some critical coastal ecosystems called seagrass beds, mangroves, and salt marshes, and they actually store more than 10 times the amount of carbon than terrestrial forests. So I hope you understand why ocean ecosystems are so important for climate change and why you might have heard the term blue carbon. There's a lot more work being investigated in tapping into the blue carbon storage potential of all these coastal ecosystems as carbon offset credits, basically protecting these coastal ecosystems to sequester carbon rather than simply focusing on forests. And finally, if I haven't convinced you enough that our oceans are critical for mitigating climate change, over 80% of the global carbon cycle is circulated through the ocean. So those coastal ecosystems I mentioned, seagrass beds, mangrove forests, they cover less than 2% of the total ocean area, but they actually account for about half of the total carbon sequestered in ocean sediments. At the same time, these coastal habitats are at great risk and they are being destroyed and disappearing faster than any terrestrial rainforest. So I'm going to share a couple of stories about some of our students because I I'm hoping to inspire you all that it's not just you. You might think that you're just one person. There's nothing you can do. But remember, you have a voice, you have friends, family, and if you access your network, you can really power these waves of change all around the world. With C-Smart, we say we've taught over 40,000 students, but all of their families keep telling us how their kids are always so excited to share what they've learned at home. And dinner time conversations are focused on ocean conservation. Our kindergarten students are getting to parents that only eat sustainable seafood, and they're having their whole family spend more time at the beach. So these little kids have been able to get their whole family to change their behavior and their habits, as well as their friends. And I always love sharing the story of Naomi, because she started with us when she was only in kindergarten. And for her 6th birthday, instead of presents, she asked everyone to give donations to whale conservation. So if a 6-year-old can do this much for our planet, think how much you can do. There are so many different ways that you can help protect our oceans, combat climate change, simply by supporting C-Smart. So we are a Vancouver-based charity, so if you donate to us, you do get a tax receipt. And we are always looking for volunteers. So Tom, I'm looking at you because we need definitely more comms support. And really, the whole idea for C-Smart is we want to empower every single person to protect our oceans and to ensure that future generations can live in a world full of whales, fish, and hope. Thank you so much, everyone. I want to just share some take-home messages. And the thing is, I just really want to emphasize that if you are too scared to take that first step, you'll never get anything done. Like I said, I get seasick, horrendously seasick. Yeah, I spend weeks at a time on a boat when I'm looking for whales, using binoculars on rocking, rolly waters. I can be miserable for a lot of it, but it's worth it for me. So just because you haven't tried something before, you know that might not be the greatest for you, take that first step, surprise yourself. And I think what's really important is to figure out where you can truly make a difference, is to really consider what you're passionate about. Where do you want to make the biggest difference in the world? What are your key skills and how can you overlap all of those? So if you want to find out more, you can check out our website, csmartschool.com. We do send out ocean-friendly tips every single month if you join our newsletter. So that's another way that you can find out more about our oceans. And again, we're doing a beach cleanup at Kitsilano Beach tomorrow at 10 a.m. So hope you can all join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine. That was awesome. And thanks again for sharing those tips at the end. I think it really makes it tangible for people to be able to take their own steps towards climate justice and fighting that climate change as well. All right, so we have a few minutes now for some questions for our presenters today. So if you have questions for Tom, Moronke, or Elaine, or just in general about climate change, the ocean, about waste-free groceries, any of those wonderful things, you can feel free to unmute your microphone, you can use your raise hand reaction, or you can put your questions in the chat. And we'll see if there's any questions coming in. Oh, it looks like Elaine has a question right off the bat.
I was writing so many questions for Moronke. I'm so jealous. It's so cool what you do. I was curious what is being done to regulate deep sea mining in areas that are beyond a country's exclusive economic zone.
Yeah, I actually, if I could share my screen again, I actually have a backup slide on that. So I could totally get into that. One moment.
Moronke, have you ever been in a submersible?
Oh, no, I haven't, but it's one of my goals. I've been on ships where we use the ROVs, so the remote operated vehicles, because they're less risky and also cheaper to operate than the human operated vehicles, but they send the people higher up in their career down in the human operated submarines. And later on in my career, I'll get to that. So this is just a quick slide from one of my other, actually I use this in a school presentation, but this is what's being done basically to regulate deep sea mining. So you were asking about the international. The International Seabed Authority regulates mining outside of national zones or those economic exclusion zones. And they're actually working on the regulatory framework. So that includes like a comprehensive mining code that'll control the prospecting, exploration, and exploitation stages of mining. But within the national jurisdiction, so on continental shelves and within those economic exclusion zones, there are no actual rules right now. So it's on a country by country basis. So whatever that country wants to do with their area, they can do. Yeah.
Other people need to ask questions because otherwise I'm just going to I have so many questions, so I'm going to try to control myself.
All right, well, we've got a question in the chat for Tom. How can individuals in media make climate change or hashtag climate change trending?
Well, that's a great question. It's really a platform specific strategy. So, if you pick a specific social media platform you want to communicate in, you can always implement best practices on how to communicate on that platform. So for example, if it's an organic post on, say, Instagram, you'd probably focus on a reel and make some type of authentic, just share your story. Everyone wants realness nowadays, and I feel like that type of content tends to do quite well. So I really play into your audience and play into a specific platform, and then go for authenticity, realness, and people will gravitate to that if you're looking to make content trend, I'd say, these days.
Awesome, thanks, Tom. A question for Elaine and Moronke. So I'll let you decide who wants to answer first. What are your suggestions on individuals transitioning into marine sciences later on in their careers?
Moronke, you want to go first?
Sure, I could go first. Okay, so I would say it's kind of the same, depending on your background, it's probably kind of the same as an individual going into marine science for the first time earlier on in their career. So the most important step is just getting your foot in the door. And that could be through volunteer positions. It could be through casual positions with ocean policy firms or actual laboratories if you want to go that route as well. I don't know if internships would be open to people who aren't students or recent graduates, but it would just be important to get that initial experience, because once you get your foot in the door and get those initial contacts, you can always push that further.
I completely agree. The marine science world is extremely small. And so I always share this as kind of my good karma story. All my life, I wanted to work in Antarctica. Canada actually does not have a research program in Antarctica. And I remember I was working in this little town in Alaska studying sea lions again. And I met a person holding a Frisbee because I love to play Ultimate. We started talking, started playing Frisbee together, kept in touch over the years. And believe it or not, she emailed one day just to tell me that she was working for the US government in Antarctica. And I told her that's my dream come true. I would love to go. She gave my CV to her boss. And he hired me without ever even interviewing me. So I got to work in Antarctica twice, studying penguins and fur seals and elephant seals, just from talking to someone holding a Frisbee in a small town in Alaska. You just never know what happens. So talk to everyone, because you never know who they'll know. And that job, the job in Antarctica, actually led to also my second dream job, working in these tiny little islands in Hawaii. studying one of the world's rarest seals, the Hawaii monk seal. And again, I kept applying and they just wouldn't give me the job because I wasn't an American, couldn't work for the US government. And it turns out that one of the field camp leaders in Antarctica used to train the leader of the monk seal research in Hawaii. So he called him with a satellite phone from Antarctica to Hawaii and basically just said, you need to hire Elaine. They interviewed me by satellite phone, I think next day. And 2 weeks after Antarctica, I jumped on a plane to go to Hawaii. So you just don't know what will happen. I understand all these things happened early on in my career, but keep in mind that a lot of these jobs I had I got them while I was still doing my undergrad. So I didn't have the schooling or the academic background to get these jobs. It was just who I knew.
Fantastic. That was a great answer from both of you. Thank you. A question for you, Moronke. What kinds of minerals are being mined?
So it's mainly at hydrothermal events, it's mainly a mixture of base metals, so things like copper, lead, iron, and zinc. But depending on where the mineral beds are located on the earth, you can find precious metals as well. So even right off the coast of the island that I'm currently on, the west coast of Vancouver Island, there are gold and silver deposits. There's not much of them, but they exist. So yeah, all sorts of metals, precious metals and base metals.
Thank you. We're going to jump to a question for Tom. How has COVID impacted your container program at NADA?
Yeah, I just shared a link to kind of further answer this question. But at first it was a lot of education and awareness on the type of containers we can receive. We're very specific on what can be reused, and so it was a lot of newsletter work, a lot of strategic communications via social media, as well as like implementing it into our FAQs on our website. But up front, it was, I think COVID made us all more aware of the wastes we were creating. So we saw a huge influx of uptake, and everyone in a close radius to the store was bringing in their containers. So it actually got to a point where we had to change the hours of donations. So we've actually limited it to 12 to 2 p.m. just because it was taking up too much. We just couldn't keep up with the amount of containers coming in. But yeah, in terms of how COVID affected, at first it was easy to gather as much as containers as we need to run this program, but eventually we had to refine down in terms of like what will be useful and what we can support. So yeah, a lot of still to this day we have tons of containers. We just need to streamline it.
Fantastic. I personally love going into NADA because I always forget my containers. It's fantastic that people bring their containers in that you can just like grab and fill up. So that's something I'm really grateful for as well. All right, a sort of general question. How do we feel about ocean cleanups? Are they worth it or are they causing more harm?
I can go first. There is no easy answer because there are lots of different ocean cleanup projects happening. So when you're talking about the clean of the garbage patch, you're probably thinking of Boyan Slat's Great Ocean Cleanup Project. And this person, Boyan, made headline news because he came up with this idea for cleaning up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch when he was only in high school. And since then, he has generated millions of dollars of funding as well as followers to support his cause. Unfortunately, there are lots of criticisms from scientists about his specific project, mainly because he's out in the open ocean trying to clean up this area. And these garbage islands are so huge that there's actually lots of organisms living within these garbage islands. And it's basically the system that is kind of like these floating buoys that will essentially kind of use ocean currents to suck out the plastic. So what a lot of people have pointed out is that there's actually 17 rivers in the world. Most of them are in Asia. and a couple in Africa that are responsible for the majority of plastics entering our oceans. And there's a lot of research that supports that it would actually be more beneficial to our oceans to stop the plastic from entering the oceans by cleaning up these river mouths. And this is probably a better way because it's onshore. So people are actually here, they can monitor these cleaning systems and they can keep removing the plastics and remove any animals that are entangled. A couple of the main concerns about the Great Ocean Cleanup is that it is really far in remote locations, and there could be a lot of damage caused to this equipment from storms or just from the ocean's very powerful. So that's kind of take on it. It's great that anyone is trying to clean up the oceans, and I think raising awareness is really key. But I think we also need to be really mindful of looking at all the different possibilities and choosing the best option. But Tom, from a marketing perspective, they've done an amazing job, don't you think?
I think it's such a great way to bring people together outside, and just the conversations that come from being in nature and on the beach. And I know our community is really excited about the opportunity to connect. And we actually had our first in-person event on Monday. And it was really great to see and get that going again. But yeah, on any way that we can connect with our customers and add value to them beyond, here's what we offer, that's marketing that I'd love to do.
And I'll say that I've participated in beach cleanups myself. I love beach cleanups, and the Ocean Cleanup Project, I know about it. I have no strong opinions in either direction. I know that there are, as you mentioned, Elaine, there are a lot of scientists who do have very strong opinions. I think that the one good thing that it is doing, even for the people that are against it, is it's getting more people talking about these garbage patches and the effects on the ocean that are far out in the high seas where people don't usually pay attention because it's not right in front of them.
And for people who don't know what we mean by garbage patches, there are a lot of people have heard about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and they hear about it because it's bigger than Texas, it's bigger than a lot of Europe, not bigger than a lot of Europe, it's bigger than France, Germany, and Italy combined. Basically, there is so much garbage and plastic in the oceans that the way the ocean currents work, they're basically just swirling, these gyres are swirling and collecting these plastics into key areas. People keep hearing about Great Pacific Garbage Patch. There's actually 5 garbage patches around the world, 2 in the Pacific, 2 in the Atlantic, and 1 in the Indian Ocean.
Awesome. Thank you for that in-depth answer. Another question in the chat is, what are the best ways to stay informed with what is happening in the oceans? What are your usual sources of information?
Smart's monthly newsletter.
I could go first on this one if nobody else wants to go. For me, it's science Twitter, because there are a lot of scientists on Twitter constantly promoting their work or different initiatives. And I follow ocean scientists because I'm an ocean scientist. And also for deep sea programs specifically, there's this organization called the Ocean Exploration Trust, and they run Nautilus Live. And their website is nautiluslive.org. And basically every year they go out on these expeditions, and their main objective is just pure deep sea exploration. So they go out and they see what there is to see and find what there is to find, and they let people tune in to their remote operated vehicles, submarine dives, and happenings on the ship, like their wet labs and stuff, and ask them questions live while they're doing their research. So it's also an opportunity to get involved with deep sea research from the comfort of your own home.
Tom, do you see the question for you in the chat?
Oh,
Or do
yeah.
you want me to read it?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. That's actually a great question. And yeah, we do have, I have some exciting news. So this isn't, I get this all the time, do we offer a wide enough product assortment to fill your pantry for all your needs? And one of the big challenges we've had is just back of house and lack of space. And so we are getting a storage facility to house our products. So a lot of the issues we have in the supply chain is that we don't have enough space to store these products. And so what we're going to do with this new storage is we're going to use that as like our warehouse to feed the brick and mortar store. And so what we're hoping to do is expand our offering, not only online, but also in store. And so with this, we're really excited about being able to purchase more, build out our inventory, even look into wholesale and offering, larger quantities of specific products. And this is actually something we're rolling out like starting next month. So we recently are signing a lease in a warehouse in Mount Pleasant. And this is going to allow us to first expand our offering online and then use our brick and mortar as kind of like the showroom for potential new products to kind of see the uptick in sales and whatnot. But yes, we will. Right now, I'd say there's certain products we are missing that you won't find at, say, a Whole Foods. But with this new inventory space and this new warehouse opportunity for us, I do see us, really offering a full palette.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for your questions. If you have a couple of more to send in the chat, that is perfectly fine. But again, you can find everyone at their various locations. I'll let everybody share maybe their websites or their social media handles in the chat, just so people can find you. We've got a question from Janine.
Hi. Okay. I wasn't sure when this ended, if I had time to ask a question. Okay, cool. I know everyone here is kind of based in Lower Mainland Vancouver, so I have kind of a specific city question for you guys. What do you think about the 25 cents additional fee for like single-use cups and the slowly like kind of phasing out of single-use plastic bags? Because I know that there's been some concern about accessibility for like lower income people and like this idea of like privilege that people can have like a reusable mug. So that kind of idea, this like, it's a hard question. So I'm kind of wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I can go first. Yeah, you're totally right. Like, we've been talking about reopening our cafe, and COVID's really changed things. It's just like we can't. It's not only a risk to our customers, but also a risk to us to leave cups out that are just available for reuse or use. So it's definitely a tough conversation to have. I think it, if anything, it teaches us how to kind of refuse, in terms of what I mean by that is like put yourself in a position to be successful with this new tax. So like when you leave, just make sure you have that cup or that reusable tote. But it's more so a lifestyle behavioral change that needs to happen. But yeah, I think it'll just take time. I know we talk about it in store all the time, like what can we do to support, if we want to open the cafe and all that.
I've worked on a lot of campaigns to ban single-use items. So it's not a simple topic. And like you said, there are a lot of people who these taxes, it just creates this extra barrier to them. So I think overall it is a good step in the right direction. And I think perhaps once the city has run this for a bit longer and you get feedback from customers and consumers and also retailers, they'll know about what were some of the main challenges and how we can keep improving from it. But I don't want you to think that this is all permanent. that people who are from lower income families will continue to have to face these fees that they can't afford. But it is a challenge for everyone to make it inclusive for everyone.
Yeah, and I also, just to kind of quickly add on to my question, like the fact that the 25 cents kind of goes directly to the cafe or whoever, and they're not kind of mandated to use it for like a reusable cup program. Do you think that would be like a feasible policy change to get them to like invest all that money into like share waves or mug share or reusables takeout, like a program like that?
Yeah, I think like shareware is something I've looked at that's really interesting. I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this, but I think it's all about like with COVID still out there, it's kind of like, how do you put the risk onto someone else taking care of the cleaning procedures? I think that's our biggest fear, is that we wouldn't want to be, offering, mugs to use that we can't control who's touched them or been exposed to. It's definitely, I'm glad you brought this up. This is a great conversation.
And the city of Vancouver does do surveys asking people for feedback on these different types of programs. So this is definitely something you could mention. Right now, the initiative you mentioned, Shareware, or there's lots of different for-profit businesses popping up now providing these services where they provide reusable containers or cups, and you can get them from one restaurant and then drop it off at another restaurant, and they charge a fee or a deposit for it. Whether or not the city will actually fund these types of projects remains to be seen. Again, as Tom mentioned, there are some liability issues, unfortunately. So it's not a simple solution, is what I've realized.
Thank you both for your insight on that. It's something that I've been wondering and struggling with. So especially through COVID, like trying to get people to take my reusable mug in COVID has been such a struggle. But yeah, we try our best.
And Tom also mentioned lifestyle changes, right? If I forget to bring a reusable mug or a place refuses to take my reusable mug, then I either won't get my coffee or I'll get it in a 4-year cup and just stay there and drink it, if that's possible. And my partner is from Belgium. He doesn't understand all the disposable coffee cups here. He's like, in Europe, people always just sit in the cafe and you sit and you enjoy your coffee. Why do people always need to just grab and go and just run around? And it makes sense, right? And I think, again, lifestyle choices. Why don't you just sit and take time to enjoy your coffee, even if it's only 5 minutes?
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, that's a really big question. So thanks for bringing it up, and thanks for the conversation around it. One last really quick question for Tom. Will Nada open more of their store across Metro Vancouver? There's a desire for more Nadas in the Lower Mainland.
I know, me too. There's no plans to expand. We're really focusing on making package-free shopping accessible through our online store. We do offer free home delivery across the Lower Mainland. So we go all the way out to Langley, Burnaby, Richmond, Surrey, North Van, West Van. So that's really kind of what we've been focusing on is pushing the home delivery aspect of our business. And it's free. Yeah, it's free. It's free for $50 minimum. I'm actually going to throw a discount code for everyone here to use. That'll give you $25 off your next order. So feel free to give it a try. If you've never tried home delivery, feel free to give it a go. That's the service offering we're really excited about. But right now, I'd say our main focus is getting back out in the community, doing pop-ups, figuring out ways to create awareness and engage our community in our mission. And we'll see how the home delivery does. And then hopefully, I'd have to ask Brianne, see what she's got up her sleeve.
All right, fantastic. Thanks everyone for answering questions. I'm just going to share my screen one more time really quickly. I have a quick challenge for everyone in the audience. So tonight we were looking at finding our climate action intersection. And this was the intersection between our interests, our network, our reach, and our talents and our skills. So my challenge for all of you is to make your own Venn diagram. Find out where your intersection is and what your most powerful climate action is as well. So we heard 3 really fantastic examples tonight, but all of us will have different answers to this question, and all of us will have different powerful climate actions that we can take at the intersection of these 3 things. So I want to say once again, thank you so much to our speakers tonight for coming out and inspiring our audience, for sharing your own stories and your own intersection of your interests, your talents and skills, and your network and reach. So we really appreciate having all of you, all of our speakers, and all of our audience members tonight. Again, if you'd like to chat more with CSmart or with NADA, you can find us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. at Kitsilano Beach. We'll be doing a shoreline cleanup there. Moronke's also posted her website in the chat, so definitely go check that out. I really enjoyed taking a stroll through your website and seeing some of your visual art that you had up there. So definitely head over there and see what Moronke's been up to. If you want to learn more about what CSmart does, feel free to visit our website, as Elaine mentioned earlier. We've got lots of resources, online learning, all of our events are up there. If you're a teacher, we've got school programs, but there's also things for families, for students, and for adults as well. So we would love to have you visit our website too. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming tonight. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Earth Day 2022. And remember that Earth Day can happen every day, so continue doing your positive climate actions every day of the year, and have a fantastic evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Earth Day.
Thank you guys. Those presentations were so good.
Yay,
Bye.
thank you.